And let's go to former Congressional Budget Office Director Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former senior economic advisor to Barack Obama, Austan Goolsbee. Let's first of all get your sense of where things stand, Doug, on the economy as a backdrop. Less important in a midterm election year where anger seems to get people out to the polls, but not unimportant. The president has sort of downplayed that, much to, I guess, Paul Ryan's chagrin, in favor of more, divisive issues like the caravan and all that. What do you think?
The economy is very strong, and we've seen, steady pickup in year-over-year GDP growth every quarter in the Trump administration. That has now shown up in wage growth, especially as measured by the Employment Cost Index, the best measure of it. And so I think there are some Republicans who wish the president had emphasized the economy more, their contributions to that economy. But it's certainly not going to hurt Republicans. They got a strong economy and they can run on it.
Austin, the economy was humming along just fine. We're certainly better than it was in both of the midterm elections, particularly the last one for Barack Obama. But again, without him on the ballot per se, the argument was that Democrats weren't going to benefit. What is it about that makes the economy, unless it's just going kablooey, such a non-event in a midterm?
Well, I'm an economist, so I hate to say it's because people hate economics. But, the fact is, I think one of the things that got the Republicans collectively and President Trump specifically not talking about the economy is that the major actions taken by the administration in the last couple of years have not proven very popular at all. So the economy's doing fine, doing very well. But the tax cut is extremely unpopular. And if you look at the issues around health care, that's really a two-edged sword and probably a negative for the administration and the candidates. So they're kind of like, let's get off talking about those things and
well, I don't know about that. I mean, I can respectfully disagree whether it's extremely unpopular because obviously consumer confidence is in and out of two-decade highs. Right. But leaving that aside, Doug, do you get a sense that there's a right balance here, then that maybe, with so many people who vote early, and there are 36 million who did. Now, it depends on when they voted, and the snapshot at the time, you could think of the market sell-off. For some, you could also think of those who were voting early when their own fortunes were improving. So a lot depends on that. But that there were a lot of Republicans who were voting early. And I don't know what to glean from that, but what do you think?
I think this is a really interesting feature of this particular midterm. In past elections, Democrats really owned the early vote. They were much better at getting their folks organized to vote early. And Republicans have, in the traditional fashion, caught up on that. With an economy that has been steadily improving, that sort of insulates you from when the vote's taken. Now, there have been market fluctuations, but I think we know that the vast majority of Americans aren't personally invested in that. And so I think the economy works in Republicans' favor, and the early vote, in this case, probably cancels out, doesn't give the Democrats an advantage.
We try to extrapolate a lot, Austin, over these midterm battles and what it sets the stage for. There are a lot of people who thought after the 1982 midterms that Ronald Reagan was toast. Obviously, he wasn't, or that even Barack Obama, after the midterms in 2010, was going to be a one-termer. Obviously, he wasn't. So I know we can make the leap here that goes beyond the reality. But what is your sense of how Democrats address economic issues after these midterms? If they were to game the House, for example, are they more galvanized to reach for compromise on some of these issues near and dear to economists and those who have crunched the numbers? Or is it about going after Donald Trump and hearings and investigations and they get sidetracked?
Yeah, it's probably less the let's find ways to find compromise. The history suggests that when it comes into the midterms, if one party wins in a big way at the midterm, they feel like they're emboldened and that they have a mandate, as it were. But once you have divided government, it usually is the case that if the other party takes over in the midterm, not a whole lot gets done before the presidential election. It's more like setting the stage over what's the agenda going to be that they fight about in the presidential campaign. I think for sure the Democrats' number one thing is health care. You see it over and over again in a whole bunch of races, and they're going to try to push back against some of the moves that the president's taken on health care.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both. We'll watch her very closely on that health care issue.